everyone! Today I will show you how to make wrist warmers on the Passap. Make sure the racking handle is in its lowest position and raise 60 needles on the front bed. Place the edge springs on the last needles and raise 60 needles on the back bed. You have to observe the needle rule. The leftmost working needle must be on the front bed and the rightmost working needle must be on the back bed of the machine. I'm raising the needles all the way because I can easily see them. In the end, they must be in working position. Take the orange comb and arrange the needles in 1-to-1 division. Move the edge spring and make sure the latches of the last needles are closed. Then arrange the needles on the back bed in 1-to-1 division. Rotate the racking handle anti-clockwise to its upper position. The needles must be arranged as shown in the video. Insert the orange strippers. Set the front lock to N and the stitch size to 2. Then set the back lock the same way, the lever to N and the stitch size to 2. Thread the machine or take the yarn which you are going to use. I will use 300 tags cotton yarn as for my other projects. Knit 1 row. This is the zigzag row. Set the front lock to CX and increase the stitch size to 3. Set the back lock the same way, CX and stitch size 3. Now knit 2 rows. It should look like this. Set the front lock to N and increase the stitch size to 4.5. Same for the back lock, the lever to N and the stitch size to 4.5. Knit 1 row to finish the cast on. Clear the row counter and knit 40 rows. Now clear the row counter. Raise the pusher under the leftmost needle in working position on the front bed. Then raise the pusher under the leftmost working needle on the back bed. We won't use the pushers for knitting, they will mark the last working needles. Raise one needle to the left from the pushers on both the front and back beds as shown in the diagram. The needles must be arranged in 1-to-1 division. Knit 1 row, the lock must be on the left side of the machine. Raise the pusher under the rightmost working needle on the front bed and then the one under the rightmost working needle on the back bed. Then raise one needle to the right on the front and one on the back bed. Knit 1 row, now the lock is on the right side of the machine. Insert one needle on the front and one on the back bed on the left side and knit 1 row. Now the lock is on the left side. On the right side, raise one needle on the front and one on the back bed and knit 1 row. Then repeat the same steps. Raise one needle on the front and one on the back bed and knit 1 row. Then repeat. You have to raise the needles on the opposite side of the lock. If the lock is on the right side of the machine, raise the needles on the left and vice versa. These are the increases for the thumb. You must repeat these steps until the leftmost working needle on the front bed is the 50th and the rightmost working needle on the front bed is the 49th. The row counter must be at 20 rows and the lock must be on the right side of the machine. Now you can see the needles up close. Need 16 rows to make the thumb part. By the way, you can share photos of your results or give me ideas or patterns on my Facebook page. Clear the row counter and take the double-eye bodkin tool. You need to transfer only the stitches we just increased on the right side to the front bed of the machine. In other words, start from the rightmost needle and transfer all the stitches to the front bed until you reach the 30th needle. You must have a group of 20 needles transferred to the front bed. Take the edge spring and place it onto the last needle in working position. This is the needle above the pusher, the 29th needle. The 30th needle must be out of working position. After transferring the stitches, lower the main bed carefully and place a weight to pull the stitches down. Take the orange tool and pull the yarn from the lock. There mustn't be any tension on the yarn. Wrap it around the NX lever. Take the transferring tool, pick the rightmost stitch and hook it on the needle to the left. Raise the needle all the way so both stitches slide behind the latch, and with your other hand wrap the yarn from the lock behind the latch and into the hook. Pull the needle back to knit off those stitches. Don't pull the yarn from the lock tight. Now there will be one stitch on the hook of the needle. Pick it using the double-end bodkin tool and repeat the same steps. Attach it onto the needle to the left, raise it all the way up, Wrap the yarn from the lock behind the latch into the hook and pull the needle down. Repeat until you reach the empty needle, which is on the right side of the pusher. Transfer the last stitch into the hook of the needle above the working pusher on the right side of the back bed. This was the rightmost working needle. Close the latch and place the edge spring on top. Make sure all the empty needles are out of working position and all the edge springs are on the last needles. Knit one row. The lock must be on the left side of the machine. Remove the edge springs, take the double-eye bodkin tool and transfer the stitches we increased on the left side from the back to the front bed of the machine. In the end, the needles must be arranged as shown in the video. Pull the yarn from the lock and wrap it around the NX lever. Attach a weight to the transferred stitches. Use the transferring tool to knit off the stitches the same way as on the right side. Pick the leftmost stitch and hook it on the needle to the right. Raise it all the way so both stitches slip behind the latch, then take the yarn from the lock and wrap it behind the latch and into the hook. Pull the needle down to knit off the stitch and continue until you reach the 31st needle. Transfer the last stitch onto the 30th needle on the front bed. It must have 2 stitches into the hook. Place the edge springs on the last needles. Unwrap the yarn from the NX lever and make sure all the empty needles are out of working position. Now the needles must be arranged as at the beginning of the video. Knit 1 row. Clear the row counter and knit 16 rows to make the part for the fingers. Remove the edge springs and transfer all the stitches to the opposite needles on the front bed. Rotate the racking handle clockwise to its lowest position. Raise the needles on the back bed of the machine. You have to observe the needle rule. The leftmost working needle must be on the front bed and the rightmost working needle must be on the back bed of the machine. Here you can see the needles up close. Don't change the settings on the front lock. On the back lock, increase the stitch size to 5. Knit 1 row. Lower the front bed and push the stitches on the middle of the zigzag row. Crochet off the stitches using the yellow tool. Insert the open latch needle into the first stitch at right, then insert it into the second stitch, moving it downwards until only the first stitch slips behind the open latch. Pull the yellow tool upwards until the first stitch slips over the closed latch. Repeat these steps until the last stitch is in the hook. If you want to see the process better, you can check my video where I'm making lace. Just click on the info card. Cut the yarn from the lock, move the last stitch behind the latch, wrap the yarn from the lock behind the latch into the hook and pull it through. By the way, if you don't want to retread the machine, wrap the yarn around the NX lever and cut it afterward. Pull the end through the last stitch to finish the cast off, raise the front bed and remove the weights from the knitting. Raise all the needles and pull them down to remove the wrist warmer from the machine. Make sure all the needles are out of working position and move the lock to the right side of the machine. Unwrap the yarn from the NX lever and insert it into the slit on the side of the front bed. This is the piece we made. To make it look like a wrist warmer, we have to fold it in half and sew the edges together. Don't forget to leave a hole for the thumb. You can use the tail from the cast on to sew the upper part and the tail from the cast off to sew the part near the fingers. This is my result. You can see that I need more practice with the hand sewing part. My seam is just awful, but if you fold it like that, it's almost invisible. Although I will show you a little bit from the sewing footage. The needle is threaded with the yarn from the cast on. The piece is folded in half, the right side is inside, and I'm pushing the needle through the loops on the very edge of the knitting. Now you can see that the upper part is sewn. I need to take the second tail and use it to sew the thumb part. You need to sew it the same way. Finally, make a loop and pass the needle twice through it or weave the end in between the stitches. Turn the wrist warmer inside out and you're done. This is the final result. Feel free to give me ideas or patterns to try. Thank you for staying with me. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.